I'm going to show you some data about navigation. I chose to give you a view of what we do here in general in terms of immersive interfaces. I told you before that one point is to have interfaces which keep you immersed in a cave environment, for instance. But more specifically, I would like to talk about navigation in large-scale environment, which I think is a big problem and has many potential applications. So I'm not sure it's really biology, but I'm going to talk mainly about navigation skills and cyber sickness, which is the biological side of it, which is another problem. Okay, so the objectives of this research, which we develop in collaboration with ENSAM, which is known as AMPT in Visionnaire, and Frédéric Mérienne in Chalon-sur-Saône, Institut Image. The objectives are to develop navigational metaphors in large-scale virtual environment, to favor spatial learning in these environments, and also, in the same time, to minimize cyber sickness effects, which are, roughly said, due to visual proprioceptive, visual vestibular discrepancies in sensorial inputs. Well, just to show you these nice slides, I don't know if it's from HLRS or somewhere in Germany, just to give you this feeling that navigation can be used for, I would say, usual spaces, but also in this case to visualize molecules, ADN or something like that, which means having the person move around with Stereopsis is supposed to give this person a better understanding of the structure of this molecule. And so the idea of it, in this sense, you have to move around, so somehow to navigate. Another example we've been working on here, this is our cave, four-sided, right, remember, is architecture. This is a big model piece of architecture somewhere in Russia, and we started working on that just in the first instance to develop a demo, and we had people move using a fly stick in this big building inside and outside, and this is where we started understanding that we had some potential problem here. To make things more clear, when both environments have, in this case, the same scale, in this case, this is one of our first demos, the side of the walls of the cave have the same position as the virtual walls. And in this case, the subject would move around inside the cave, and we never saw a subject having a problem, because basically all the senses give the participant the same information, the information incongruent. What happens when you have a virtual environment, sorry it's in French, bigger than the cave physical environment, which is in our case 3 meters by 3 meters, then you start having problems. And well, this is a rough estimation from the literature, but we can say that it's about 30% of participants who start having problems of cyber sickness, dizziness, and even worse. When, once again, the size of a virtual environment is bigger than the cave, which is the case, for instance, in mazes here, where things can get even worse, because at one moment the subject doesn't have the whole view of the environment, so he has to move around, so he gets sick. And at the same time, the idea is that beside cyber sickness, this conflict may impair spatial learning in a complex environment, which is precisely missing the point we're trying to make, saying that virtual reality helps you understand complex environments. This is another example of a piece of a project in Marseille where you wanted to visualize a large space, which is about 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer. So besides that, just we don't have much time, so I'll be quick on that, but there's a whole bunch of studies which have been testing prototypes to navigate. Just to give you a few examples. I guess a well-known example which is used, I'm thinking also of UCL SWAP presentation a few months ago at UCL here in Visionnaire, using redirected walking, which is in fact the idea that you make the subject do circular motion while it thinks it goes straight. So in a way you trick the system. And I don't have time to develop on that, but it's a problem in itself, since you want to be sensorial below sensorial threshold. So the subject is strict and believes it goes straight, while in fact is turning around. And in this case, when the subjects start turning, you overturn the subject. It's one way. Many other examples we've been studying here with colleagues in the engineering department, and it's been developed also, I think, primarily by Slater at UCL again. Walking in place, an example here, while the subject moves, is these up and down triggers virtual locomotion. Being a human joystick is another solution, where the subject postural control controls motion forward and backwards and on the side. Alright, up here. So this is the omnidirectional treadmill, with the idea that contrary to a usual treadmill, the omnidirectional treadmill will make the subject able to move in any direction, but it's mechanically complex. Okay. This is a low-cost version of the omnidirectional treadmill. So, okay, just to show you that in this case the movement of the feet are quite unnatural. It's like the subject were roller skating or ice skating or something. An even worse example is from Japan. Okay, so I guess you see the idea. The idea is that the tiles move in front of the subject as he moves forward. Obviously, it's too slow. It doesn't really work. It's prototype again. A final example I'll show you is this. It's been developed by people in Russia. Once again, it's just prototype. Okay, so just to mention these few examples, there are more, is the idea that there are many prototypes in trying to have the subject move around without being sick, but they're not being compared seriously, I think, and there's much work to do. So we decided to do some basic experimental study, and I will finish my talk showing you what we did in these studies, once again with Arts et Métiers in Chalon-sur-Saône in France. So we took a simple model, I would say, from Google SketchUp, which was imported in Virtools, which is our main industrial engine here, using physics modeling and ART tracking to integrate finally this application in Arcave. So we used the boat. Why not? Basically because we found the boat free of charge on the internet, and it has also, at least we thought so, the advantage of being sufficiently complex. It's got 5 levels, 5 decks. So we could have a subject do a complex trajectory inside this boat, virtual boat. We use in the first experiment different scenarios. Sorry, in the first scenario, the subject had just visual feedback. In the second scenario, we had the sound of the engine attracting the subject potentially. And in the final scenario here, what you see is directional arrows showing the way toward the engine room. So the subject was starting somewhere here, and he had to go down to the bottom of the ship to find the engine room. Maybe I will show you directly here. So this is the boat again, and this is how the subject was navigating using the fly stick here and having a magic stick pointing in the direction where he was wanting to go. We measured completion time of the task as a direct measure of performance. We measured learning effects by repeating the task 4 times, and we evaluate cyber sickness with quite intuitive online, asking the subject how he felt, and using also the simulator sickness questionnaire by Kennedy, which was developed initially for simulators. Well, I'm sorry, this is in French, you don't have time to translate. But what you can see here is 1, 2, 3, 4 are the 4 trials each subject had to do. This is 4 subjects here. And you can see that without guidance, just visual feedback, our subject was asked to find the engine room on the first trial. This is in seconds. Time could be quite long. And you get a strong reduction in completion time with repetition. What's interesting, and which was not foreseen, is that with sound guidance, the engine sound, or arrows on the ground, you get much more dispersion compared to no guidance situation. And even with arrows on the ground, there's almost, if you take the average here, no learning with repetition. As if the subject was learning quite well the environment here without guidance, and almost not with arrows indicating his way on the ground. Okay. Concerning cyber sickness, well, you know, we are experimenters, so we have always difficulties finding subjects wanting to spend hours and hours in a cave. In this first experiment with 15 subjects, what we saw is the following. A third of the subject had no symptoms of cyber sickness. The third felt, as you can see here, some discomfort growing up between trial 1 and 2, and then getting habituated. The third had growing discomfort, which has been observed before. Thinking of papers by Stanley, for instance, and who found in simulators previously that after 20 to 30 minutes, people started getting sick, and 10%, which is, I would say, 2 subjects here, had to stop, as if a cyber sickness was growing and going to a point where they have to stop because they're sick. But in this third experiment, the first point, interesting point, is that almost all participants had some degree of discomfort. Well, and problems readapting to the real environment, which is a problem in itself, because it means that once a subject has been in this kind of experiment, you have to be careful when it goes back to a real environment. Of course, if he's sick, that's a serious problem, but even without being seriously sick. Quickly, a second experiment, testing different interfaces. In the first experiment, we use a fly stick with 1 joystick pushing forward, backward, increases or decreases your speed in the direction you're pointing, and sideways rotates your point of view. And remember discussions with people at NSAM saying that this might be a problem, mainly because some people have difficulties controlling this type of device. And we decided to test, which is an Xbox controller, a situation where we had two joysticks, one controlling rotation and one controlling translation, with the hope that it would reduce cyber sickness. Second idea was to test a first-person perspective. In this case, what I showed you before, the subject sees the world from his real, I would say, viewpoint. And in the second situation, we built a simple avatar, as if the subject was seeing himself in front of him and controlling this avatar, rotating the avatar. And the idea is coming, I guess, from games where you have often in car simulations, for instance, but not only, also shooting games, a situation where third-person perspective is supposed to reduce cyber sickness. So we tested that. This is a different view. Just to show you that we have some problems when the camera is on one side of the wall and the avatar on the other side. So we have to dig holes in the walls. Okay, so what are the major results of these two experiments? So this is first person with Xbox, third person perspective with Xbox, first person with joystick, first experiment, sound guidance with joystick, and visual arrows on the ground with joystick. This is the first experiment, this is the second experiment. In any case, what you can see is that you have a repetition of a task, quite learning of the environment. Completion time goes from, on average, 400 to 500 seconds, which is a long time, to, at best, 1 and 20 seconds, which is in itself a good performance because the distance was long. But you can see also it seems like third-person perspective here doesn't make much good to the performance, even worse, because what we found here on average that the first person perspective with Xbox, with dissociation of rotation and translation, is the best you can get in terms of learning. As I told you before, with additional sensorial information here, in particular arrows on the ground, you can see that learning is much less obvious than with in particular the first person perspective and the Xbox. Cyber sickness, again, I told you before, this is the norm. This is a test which has been normed. The norm of cyber sickness in a simulator is about 10 on this score, and you can see that you have 3 dimensions: nausea, oculomotor stress, disorientation. You can see that in almost all the cases the average values are above this norm, which, as I told you before, means that even if they didn't stop the task because they were not seriously sick, all subjects report in any indicator some symptoms of cyber sickness. To conclude, in this case, in this experiment, these two experiments, participants were able to learn the virtual environment. We had a clear learning curve. Sensorial aids, as we thought initially, do not help and even tend to impact learning negatively. In other words, it's better to let the subject explore. And in a majority of participants, various degrees of discomfort are felt after 20 minutes of exposure to a virtual environment, which is documented in the literature. In other words, we didn't succeed at reducing cyber sickness, and we are doing more experiments now at the moment to work on this problem. Thank you for your attention.